To those of you that are subscribed to me, I apologize for not posting for like 2 years. That's my bad. But for those of you that are new, let's just get right into it. Bootlegs are essentially unofficial recordings and releases of either live tracks or rare kind of B-sides or like unreleased studio recordings and anything like that. They're essentially just not, they're not official. They're not sold through the band by the band or their record label. It's all kind of in a legal gray zone. In my opinion, I don't think buying them is that big of a deal because the majority of the time with like live shows and stuff, most bands are not they're not releasing all their live shows on disc. So they wouldn't have made the money off of that anyway. And then as far as like B-sides and unreleased stuff goes, yes, bands do release stuff like that, but I don't think just because they went on a bootleg means they're not going to put it on an official recording. And I think anyone that likes a band enough to buy bootlegs from them would probably still buy that B-side album that they put out anyways. So now keep in mind, we're not talking about counterfeits. Counterfeits are unofficial recreations of official products. Bootlegs are not, they're not like copies of anything. They're just unofficial releases. Counterfeits are essentially trying to copy an official release, but it's not an official release. Counterfeiting is not okay. Unless it's something like I know Frank Ocean, some of his vinyls are like super expensive to find, so people make counterfeits of those. Stuff like that, that's okay, because I mean, if you don't want to pay $300 for a record, you know, I don't blame you. But if there's a legitimate way to get something, I don't think it's cool to do that illegitimately. But bootlegs, morally, I have no problem with, because most of the time the band wasn't going to release that stuff anyway, and I want to listen to it. And all the bootlegs I buy are third party. I'm not getting directly from the manufacturer and distributor. It's usually just anything I can find online, because there's no record stores near me that deal with bootleg manufacturers and importing stuff. Most bootlegs are manufactured overseas, like in lots of places like Italy and the Netherlands, because copyright laws are kind of different there and they can kind of get away with stuff, and then they're imported into the United States. Back in the day, they were done through catalogs that weren't from the record label. Nowadays, most stuff gets done online. There's hardly any bootlegs made anymore anyways, just because CDs aren't as popular as they used to. Most people just stream stuff, and most shows that aren't on YouTube can usually be found anywhere else online. For example, SoulCQT is the program I use. It's just a file sharing software. And also keep in mind, we're not talking about repressings. For example, Stain's first album has been repressed multiple times. Graphic warning, just close your eyes for a second if you want to see this. But Stain's first album, Tormented, was released in 1996, and it was repressed many times. It was all done officially. You can tell it's a repressing because it'll have a barcode on the back and it'll say Yap'em. What sucks though is that even those repressings are still from like 20 years ago, and they were made in very limited quantities. And so those are still super expensive, but I got one from the UK. Some guy was selling them for like 30 bucks. The repressings will go for like 60 plus, and then I recently saw a first pressing sealed for like 300. All ridiculous numbers, but I decided to get that because it was just so cheap, and I'm a huge Stain fan, so I figured it was worth it to me to get it. And it's not a bad album, honestly. One cool thing though was what Mudvayne did. They re-released their first EP. This is the re-release of it in like mass quantities, because their first EP sells for even more. There was a copy at my local record shop, and they sold it on eBay for like $400. It was absolutely insane. But the band was not cool with how much, and this is, again, keep in mind, this is back in like the early 2000s, so file sharing was still kind of new, and a lot of people weren't totally on board with it. And so the band was like, it's not cool that all these people are being taken advantage of. They just want to listen to our earlier music, and they can't because it's way too expensive. so they re-released it. Some people are real nerds about first pressings, like for example Slipknot's self-titled album. Their first pressing has my favorite Slipknot song on it called Purity. It was taken off the repressings because there was some like copyright issues. I won't get into that whole thing. On their 10th anniversary re-release of that album, they put Purity back on the track listing. They didn't include the prelude track to it called Frail Limb Nursery, but I don't really care. It's just like an ambient track, and I don't like Slipknot enough to pay whatever $60+ it is for the first pressing of that. And this came with a bunch of cool alternate mixes and demos anyway. They included a DVD documentary that that guy edited together. Speaking of that, Linkin Park, also with their second album Meteora, they re-released that for its 20th anniversary. This top line is the actual album, but everything else under that is all like live tracks and demos and stuff like that. Super cool stuff. So that was a whole off-topic tangent. I apologize for that. One thing bands would do though, to kind of combat that urge for fans who wanted live albums, didn't know how to get bootlegs or weren't willing to pay the price for bootlegs. For example, Deftones, after the release of their debut album Adrenaline, they did this. That was an official production CD, but bootleg CDs have been around ever since CDs became an affordable and common form of media. So you're probably asking, why are you making this video if it's old news? Well, they're still really obscure, especially today. I don't know anyone my age that collects CDs and knows about bootlegs. So that's what I'm making this video to get bootlegs, and especially stained bootlegs. That's the main subject of this video today. I'm talking about stained bootlegs, and I'm trying to get them out of obscurity. Because I've done a lot of research, and it's really hard to find information about stained bootlegs, and it's really hard to buy them. It's pretty rare. My dad actually collected bootlegs at one point. Here's one of them, Green Day, Woodstock 94. That's a popular one. And then Nirvana, all acoustically. This one's a little more rare. You got those back in the 90s, again, when record stores would get them imported. Nowadays, if you want to get physical copies of bootlegs, you're probably only going to find them on eBay. They're hard to get on Discogs because they ban bootlegs. Can't buy or sell bootlegs, technically, because I haven't found any stained bootlegs on eBay. I've only gotten mine on Discogs because they flew under the radar. Really, the only other place you'll be able to find them is just in the wild at local record shops. But even then, I've had no luck there. But with that, let's just get into the stained bootlegs that I do have. Stain's the only band I've actually been able to find and buy bootlegs. I probably consider them my second favorite band, but I really like listening to their live stuff because they're really good live.
You guys gonna tear it up on this one, right? Are you ready?
They sound just like the studio, like this Deftones album. This live Deftones album sucks. I literally got it because there was a minimum order requirement, and this guy on Discogs had a bunch of CDs I wanted for super cheap, and I figured I'd just grab it because I'd never heard it before. But Chino Moreno Torpa's vocal cords for screaming for so many years, and he sounds terrible live. He's not, I think on that, he's actually not as bad, but he sounds nothing like the studio. But Stain, on the other hand, the band, for the most part, and Aaron Lewis, back in the day, they sounded super good live, and so I love getting their old bootlegs. Nowadays,
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
They're mid. They're super mid now, which sucks. I said for the most part because there's a song which is probably my favorite Stain song, called Crawl. And in the song, there's this really cool technique that Mike came up with that is one of the reasons why he's like probably my favorite guitarist. It's super cool sounding, and not a single person has done it since. Even he hasn't completely replicated. He did a similar version to it on one of their newer songs, but essentially it's kind of like this squelching noise. Pushes down on the 6th string on the pickup, he pushes down over the pickup, and as he lifts off, there's a harmonic. And I'm terrible at it. I can't do it. So that's why I'm not plugging this in and playing it. You can hear it live. A lot of times he struggles to hit it. So it's not a skill I'm really upset about not getting perfect right away. Starting out, this isn't really, it's not like a live show or anything. It's an audio biography, essentially talking about the upbringing of the band. It kind of sucks. I bought it because it said that there's interviews with the band. There isn't. Before each track, there's like 5 to 10 seconds of some of the band members just saying something over the phone, and then it just goes into this like British lady speaking over a script about crap I already know. So that was kind of a waste of money. This one cover's kind of corny, but this was a show they played in Germany, and you can see on the back it has a ton of extra live tracks. That's the inside. It's kind of funny, you'll see on bootleg sometimes is misspellings. Aaron did a song with Seven Dust called Follow, that's really good. I'd recommend listening to it, but they spelled it as, here I'll see it. They spelled it as Seven Durst, which is funny because the song right after it is a Limp Bizkit song.
Like a big festival we all know. This is the... See, this is the bad thing about the shows being free. People like this can just... Security? Hey, could we have someone remove this rabid tape guy?
That Aaron was also on. Part of me wonders if that was intentional. This is probably my favorite one. This was another show they played in Germany, and it has a ton of cool stuff. It has Anthrax and Public Enemy cover they did of Bring the Noise. They covered Sober by Tool, that was cool. They covered Creep by Stone Temple Pilots, that was really cool. And then they covered Need To by Korn, that was really cool. They were at some venue that had like some of the like loudest speaker, like longest extending range speakers in the world, and they were opening for Korn that night, and Korn wanted to hear what they sounded like on the speakers. And staying in the really early days before Dysfunction, they were a cover band, and they did a ton of Korn covers, so they could play Korn really well. Granted, I mean, all the original tracks are better, but again, stuff like that is just really cool to see. There's the inside. There's the inside of the booklet. So those are all my official bootlegs, but I have some custom ones that I've made, and we'll start right at the beginning. In 2001, right after the release of their third album, Break the Cycle, they did a MTV Unplugged show that was really good. It only ever got released on DVD. I bought the DVD and I cut it up to fit in a CD case. I even got it to line up with like the side label and everything. The disc and everything lined up on the inside. That was kind of impulsive. That DVD wasn't released until like 2002, and there was a bootleg made for that show. This is not it. At least this isn't a real version. I made this. I just printed out the paper, just ripped it onto a CDR and made a label and everything. The official bootleg is banned on Discogs, and I haven't been able to find it anywhere on eBay. So I just kind of took it into my own hands to make it myself. And this is essentially what got me started into making all these bootlegs and buying all these bootlegs and everything and going down this rabbit hole. Originally, I had made this and I didn't have the inside cover artwork. I didn't have the inside of the booklet. But on Discogs, you're able to look at all the, it's kind of like Wikipedia. You can look at all the contributors on a certain like listing or something, a certain CD or record. And I messaged the guy who had uploaded scans. He made scans of just the front and back cover, and then so I messaged him asking if he would scan all the artwork for me, and he did. And so I was able to make that. What's really interesting is if you look at the track listing, MTV, their actual MTV Unplugged set was only 11 songs, I'm pretty sure, and this one only the first 7 songs are actually from that show. The other 9 are all other assorted live tracks from festivals and different shows and stuff like that. But I was actually able to find on SoulSeek the full track listing, all 16 of the songs that were on that CD. So that's about as close to the original bootleg as you can get with it. Another thing you can do if you don't want to actually print it all out yourself and you don't have any, and you don't want to rip CDRs and do all that work, there's a website called kunaki.com and you can make custom CDs for $1. The only thing that sucks is you can't do double-sided back inlay artwork and you can't do actual booklets. It's literally just one card. So I had to make this, and you can, I don't know if you can tell on camera, but you can definitely tell in person. What's nice is, you know, they're an actual like printing house, and so the colors are way more saturated and everything. And you can see there's no double-sided artwork, and it's just a card. But their discs are actually pressed, they're not CDRs. And they look really nice. It covers the whole thing, it's like textured and everything. This one kind of, I don't know if it's kind of hard to tell, but if you look real close, you can kind of see it's off-center. But it's not a big deal, honestly. But then with audio I found online, I made a bunch of custom bootlegs myself of shows. This was a show they played in Germany. This is like my 3rd Germany show, and 2 out of 3 are soundboard quality, which is really cool. That's the back. And so the pictures are really small because the video I got it off of was super low quality, and so I just made them really small, and then kind of like you saw on Unplugged, just on the back, there's just small squares of pictures. That kind of inspired that. Then I actually made my own version of an Unplugged bootleg, and I made it a little more colorful. I tried to make it. This is very early. I've gotten a little bit better at designing, in Photoshop and everything like that. But I tried to make it look similar to like what MTV actually would have put out. That's the disc inside. And I did that as a callback to the original bootleg. And I'll just show you all the rest. These were all, I literally just got tons of live shows. I just took tons of live shows and put them all onto CDRs and just used this to practice my editing skills. In 2021, for the 20th anniversary of their 3rd album, Break the Cycle, they reunited and played it live in front of no audience, which was really weird. But they just recorded the whole thing, but they never actually officially like released that recording. But someone leaked it on YouTube, and so I took it, I converted them to MP3 files, and then just imported them into iTunes. And so I made this, and this is some of the best Photoshop editing I've done so far. That's the back. So like I did all this glass and stuff like that, and all the effects on the text, and all the blue coloring and stuff like that. That's the disc. Did all that glass and stuff. And then that's the inside. More glass effects and everything. I tried to make it look like a super obvious callback to the actual Break the Cycle CD. That's got glass on the back, glass on the disc. The front cover of mine is literally just the inside tray of the original album. Nonpoint, my favorite band, I also made custom CDs for. This is a show they played in Canada. So I'm doing like all the like text effects and all the like colors and stuff, and making it look like graphically cool. And like I found I made like barcodes and stuff too to make it look like kind of like a real bootleg. There's a show they did in Pittsburgh. There's the back. That's the guitarist Andrew Goldman, another one of my favorite guitarists ever. This one's probably the worst one, or my worst editing on it. I think this was it was getting towards the end on this, and I was getting kind of lazy. There's the back. This is the first one I did in this style, like a live show. So I actually have disc art for that one. You can see there's not a whole lot of editing going on there, because that was like the first one I did. I wasn't even trying to do all that. And then this is probably my favorite one, because this is right off their second album, Development, which is my favorite album of theirs. There's the back, real simple. And then this is right before their third album came out. There's the back. I designed disc art, but I ripped them on these inkjet printable discs, but I got the printer for it at the thrift store for like $8, and it was low on cyan ink, and it was missing the actual tray for the CDs. So I'm still waiting on those in the mail. The thing with non-point bootlegs though is I haven't been able to find any like actual ones. I don't think they were ever popular enough. No one ever really made any of them, which sucks, but it is what it is. Another thing you can do if you're not trying to do all that is I made like a little scrapbook kind of a thing. I just ripped like every single show I had onto CDRs. There's the back. So I just printed these out on paper. It's completely full of CDRs, a bunch of different shows and everything. So something like that, just to keep it simple. Essentially, that's everything I've been able to discover about stained bootlegs. Anyways, that's it for today. If you have any questions, comment them below. And with that, I'm out of here.